I turn flaws into flawless traits. I build tall, never capped in space. I won't stop till I hear him say, oh, oh, la, 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 la.
Behind bars tonight for what police say is a rare form of child neglect, Munchausen syndrome by proxy. Veronica Reed and David Dotson are accused of repeatedly having their 1-year-old treated for illnesses and injuries they made up.
A little boy is playing soccer and swimming, living life to the fullest. 2 years ago, he was in a wheelchair with a feeding tube. He wasn't sick. He wasn't hurt. His mother was putting him through a living hell. Today, she was sentenced to prison time for faking his illnesses, forcing doctors to perform unnecessary surgeries, and stealing 8 years of her son's childhood.
I spent my entire life believing that I was sick and that my body was broken, only to find out that I was never sick at all. I believe that I was a victim of Munchausen's by proxy and that my mother was the perpetrator.
My research is on Munchausen syndrome's 3 interconnected disease categories, starting with Munchausen syndrome itself, which involves people feigning illness in order to get medical attention. Munchausen syndrome by proxy, which involves a parent inducing an illness into a child in order to get medical attention. And finally, Munchausen by internet, a condition where people will go online in order to get support from chronic illness forums.
Hello everybody, welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I would greatly appreciate it if you would consider subscribing and you hit that red button down below. I'm Amy, better known as Amesy Beloved, and today I'm going to be covering a little bit of tea mixed with true crime, and that is we're going to go over the Gypsy Rose Blanchard and her mother Dee Dee's death and go over the entire story. This is the first, and when I mean first, I mean the literal first true crime case that I covered. When I heard about this back in 2018, I was flabbergasted, to say the least. We all hear about this stuff. It's like one of those horror story type child abuse situations where the kid is not sick and the parents are faking their illness for a number of reasons. Usually mental illness is a big part of it. If you aren't aware of what, in my opinion, let me go back. In my opinion, what kind of made me aware of it was all of Eminem's raps. He used to always rap about his mom having Munchausen's and him being spoon-fed medicine when he wasn't sick. And so that's what kind of, opened me up to what Munchausen's was. And then here comes Gypsy Rose Blanchard. She's an actual case of this, and it results in her mother's death and her online boyfriend in jail for life. And Gypsy Rose, with possible chance of, she is also in jail, but she actually might be released in 2024. I think that's when she has a chance for parole. So let's go backwards, however, and go over the story of Gypsy Rose. So Gypsy Rose Blanchard grew up with her mother, Dee Dee Blanchard, making claims about her health. This resulted in dire diagnoses from medical interventions. So it's like the worst form of child abuse. Like you saw in that news clip that I showed, these children are put into wheelchairs, much like Gypsy was. They're made to have feeding tubes inserted in them. It's just, it's hard enough to be a parent of a disabled child as it is. I think I would say almost making a mockery out of it by pretending your child is sick to get into these online forums. And that's what that news briefing was kind of ending with, but it cut off briefly. But you do hear of nowadays, it's more or less people even just pretending to have sick children that don't even exist to like chat in like forums and make connections with people. And it's truly a sick form of mental illness. So let's continue. Gypsy wasn't actually unwell during her childhood. Her mother had been lying about her symptoms, and experts believed that Dee Dee's behavior stemmed from a mental disorder, which is Munchausen syndrome by proxy. So Munchausen's is where you yourself think you are sick all the time and you pretend you fake sickness, or mentally you think you're sick when you're not. Munchausen's syndrome by proxy is when you do it to someone else, typically a child or a caretaker, or a mother to a child, parent to a child, or a caretaker to the person they're giving care to. Because Dee Dee wanted to be a caretaker, she faked and induced illnesses in her daughter. The truth about Gypsy and her mother only came out after Gypsy arranged for her online boyfriend, Nicolas Godejohn, to murder Dee Dee in 2015. Gypsy Rose, and let's see, let me pop up a picture of, here is a picture of her and her mom, Dee Dee. Bear with me really quick. So here is Gypsy in her wheelchair with her bonnet on. Her head was shaved regularly. She had her front teeth removed. She could actually walk, but she was so afraid to let anyone know that she would forcefully stay in that chair in public. There was one time when I think someone saw her walk and her mom made very light of it, like, she shouldn't do that. Like, she can, but she really shouldn't. And then here is a picture of Gypsy and Nicholas right after they were arrested, after being on the run. We'll get more into that later. Okay, so my notes. Gypsy was born in 1991 and was the baby of Dee Dee, and claimed her daughter had sleep apnea. Excuse me, some Portland ruckus outside. I was like, okay, move it along. Anyways, pardon me for the break. When Gypsy was 8 years old, Dee Dee described her as suffering from leukemia and muscular dystrophy, and she said she required a wheelchair and a feeding tube. The list of medical problems that Dee Dee related about her daughter would go on to include seizures, which I'm assuming is why her teeth were removed, asthma, and hearing and visual impairments. So she was forced to wear glasses when she didn't need to wear glasses. She was forced to shave her head when she didn't have leukemia. Oh my God, just... Due to Dee Dee's actions, Gypsy was prescribed a litany of medications that had to... And she had because of the apnea that was like her first thing she claimed that she had when she was a baby. Because of that apnea, she had to use a apnea machine, a breathing machine, when she slept. She also went through multiple surgeries, including procedures on her eyes and removal of her salivary glands. Like, what the actual fuck? When Gypsy's teeth rotted, perhaps due to her medications, which it was a side effect, I guess, of some of the medications, she was prescribed missing salivary glands or neglect. They were pulled out. Yet the truth was that Gypsy could walk. She didn't need a feeding tube, did not have cancer. Her head was bald only because her mother shaved her hair regularly. Experts believe that Dee Dee had a mental illness, again known as Munchausen syndrome by proxy. It's also called facetious disorder imposed on another, which made her fabricate her daughter's ill health in order to receive attention and sympathy for taking care of a sick child. Medical tests often showed inconclusive or contradictory results, resulting in Gypsy's diagnosis. But Dee Dee was not stop seeing any doctors who would just stop seeing the doctors who questioned her daughter's ailments. And many caregivers went, many caregivers went along with what Dee Dee wanted. She had some nurses training, so she could accurately describe symptoms, and she sometimes gave Gypsy medications to mimic certain conditions. Dee Dee was charming and seemed devoted to her daughter. So when Gypsy was old enough to talk, Dee Dee instructed her not to volunteer information during their appointments. She would always have like her hand on Gypsy's, and like when they were in public, and she would squeeze her hand really hard so that she like knew, like, if you say something. Dee Dee had told Gypsy's father, Rod Blanchard, that their daughter had chromosomal disorder that had led to her many health issues, and he complimented Dee Dee for her devoted care. When some of Dee Dee's family noticed that Gypsy didn't seem to need a wheelchair and asked questions, Dee Dee and Gypsy moved away. Dee Dee claimed to be a victim of Hurricane Katrina so that her and Gypsy could receive assistance to relocate from Louisiana to Missouri in 2005. It's not really known if she actually was displaced, but she said she was, which that would be even grosser if she lied about that, because Dee Dee continued to bring Gypsy to doctor appointments. Hurricane Katrina also provided an excuse for missing medical files. In 2008, Gypsy and Dee Dee moved into a new home in Springfield, Missouri, built by Habitat for Humanity. It was painted pink and had a wheelchair ramp. Gypsy and Dee Dee also received benefits that included charity-sponsored visits, concerts, and tickets to Disney World. All along, Dee Dee continued to bask the attention she was receiving for being this devoted caretaker, while at 14, Gypsy was seeing a neurologist in Missouri who came to believe she was a victim of Munchausen syndrome by proxy. However, this doctor never reported the case to authorities. Like, why not? Why not? That would have saved a lot of heartache. And here's Gypsy after, like, her case was made public and popular. So in 2009, an anonymous report was made to authorities stating Dee Dee's accounts of Gypsy's ailments had no medical basis. This resulted in 2 caseworkers visiting their home, but Dee Dee convinced them that there was nothing wrong. As Gypsy grew older, Dee Dee began to lie about her age, going as far to alter the dates on Gypsy's birth certificate, also saying that was a mistake or something like that because it was lost in Katrina. Anyways, but Gypsy was still becoming harder for Dee Dee to control. And here's their little pink house from Missouri. And it was very pretty, had the cross on it and everything. So in 2011, Gypsy tried to get away from her mother by running away with a man she had met at a science fiction convention. But Dee Dee soon tracked them down, and via mutual friends, she convinced the man that Gypsy was a minor, though she was actually 19 at the time. According to Gypsy, Dee Dee smashed her computer and physically restrained her to her bed after they returned home. Gypsy also stated her mother would sometimes hit her and deny her food. Gypsy eventually managed to get back online. She joined a Christian dating site this time where she met Nicolas Godejohn. She told him the truth about her mother's actions and ended up asking him straight out to kill Dee Dee so they could be together. And in June of 2015, he came to her house and stabbed Dee Dee while Gypsy waited in the other room, ears covered, in the bathroom, actually. And that is a more updated picture of them after they were arrested, while they both look much different now. Gypsy and Godejohn returned to his home in Wisconsin, where they were found by police. Gypsy had twice posted on Facebook on the account she shared with her mom, once writing that BITCH is DEAD. Later, she explained she made posts because she wanted her mother's body to be discovered. And that is Nicolas Godejohn, a little more recently. So, after Dee Dee's murder, many people who would know Gypsy wondered why she had gone so far to kill her. Like, I mean, I kind of understand because she had tried to get away a couple of times, but at the same time, maybe try like one more time before, you know, going that route is obviously not the route to go, kids. One moment. So basically, Gypsy was getting questioned. Like, people wondered why she had gone so far to kill her. And since she could walk, she simply could have exposed Dee Dee's lies by standing up in public. Yet Gypsy had been conditioned to think that no one would believe her. That's part of it. She explained, I couldn't just jump out of the wheelchair because I was afraid and I didn't know what my mother would do. I didn't have anyone to trust, said Gypsy. The fact was, Gypsy had spent her entire life being controlled and monitored by her mother. She wasn't allowed to go to school. Though Gypsy was of normal intelligence, Dee Dee told everyone that her daughter had a mental age of 7. When they were in public, Dee Dee constantly held Gypsy's hand, squeezing it when she wanted her daughter to be quiet. Again. An expert in Munchausen syndrome by Proxy said of Gypsy's life and actions, the control was total in the same sense that of the control of a kidnapped victim. Sometimes is total. Like her daughter was, in essence, a hostage. And I think we can understand that a crime that occurred subsequently in terms of a hostage trying to gain escape from their captor. So if she was, say, for instance, a hostage victim in a bank robbery, and she was held at gunpoint, and somehow she managed to get the gun away, or she planned with someone else that was also a hostage to kill her captor, would she have gone to jail? Because essentially that's what they're saying her mental state was conditioned to be like. And it was like over 19 years, you know? So it was a lot more than a reflex decision to kill your captor. I mean, she really felt this was her only way out. As Gypsy's medical records documented the abuse she had been subjected to, her lawyer was able to arrange a plea deal for the charges she faced in Dee Dee's death. In 2016, Gypsy pled guilty to second-degree murder. She was sentenced to 10 years in prison, though she'll be eligible for parole. Excuse me, guys, sorry. Text reminders. She pled guilty to second-degree murder, and she was sentenced to 10 years prison, though she'll be eligible for parole again in 2024. Godejohn was found guilty of first-degree murder. He was the one that actually committed the crime, like actually stabbied. And in 2018 was sentenced to life in prison. Gypsy has stated that only after Dee Dee's death that she realized the extent of her mother's deception. Like, she really didn't quite understand it at all, even at the time. Like, she didn't get to really grow up knowing her dad, who she now has a really good relationship with her dad and her stepmom. Today, Gypsy is healthy. She's also has said that she enjoys more freedom. Well, in her interviews, and this is, I took notes. Let me see. Scroll up. I always put a link. Let me click it. Hold on. 2 seconds. It's loading. Okay, so this is, yeah, it was like her story was really popular, like 2018, 2019. So this is an article from 2019 on biography.com that I got most of my notes from. Back to my notes. Okay, let me see. I was pretty much done. But today she's healthy. She has a really good relationship with her dad and her stepmom. She enjoys more freedom in prison. than the life she shared with her mom. She says it's literally more free. However, when asked by Dr. Phil if she was glad that her mom was dead, she stated that she's glad that she's out of that situation, but she's not happy that her mom's dead. Again, she'll be eligible for parole in 2024, but let me see here. I just realized I didn't get the right photo uploaded. So here's her again with her dad, her stepmom, and her alleged fiance. And this is from a couple years ago. At the time, he was reported as his name was just Ken, Ken. Maybe they didn't want to give his like actual name for the sake of like him not getting bombarded with people on social media. But 2 seconds, I have to go in my phone at a photo because that is the whole reason of this live, isn't it? Or this pre-recorded live. So 1 moment.
Yeah, you know what I wish, but I wish it with love. Cause there's hate in my heart for the ones up above. Our lives won't live the same. Is the hate in your heart for the miss?
Okay, so I got it. There's a little interlude. I was like, I should might as well. So again, Gypsy is in prison, but she is quoted as getting out in 2024. And it looks like, from what I've seen online from a source, that this is a list of marriage licenses out of Missouri, it would be Chillicothe County. And here it says and it doesn't say the exact date, but I think it's June, because at the bottom you see the court probates listed. It's June. So if I'm correct, that would be June 27th, 2022. So this would have just been under a month ago. Ryan Scott Anderson, 36, from Louisiana, was married to one Gypsy Rose Blanchard, 30. And that was she's from currently in, again, it's Chillicothe County out there in Missouri. So I've been digging. I haven't actually, because it's so new, like all the marriage licenses I've been able to look and pull are like not from this year. It's not even from the last 5 years. So record search, you usually have to like pay. So I am going to see if I can find something that I can pull, even if I have to pay for it, just to verify this. But this is from a verifiable source from Facebook. It doesn't seem to be false in any way. And again, from all the reports that I could look up, and I did all the sleuthing that I could, and I could not find any information about Ryan Scott Anderson on Facebook. Really nothing online at all. So he's either very private or he goes by another name. Maybe Ken's a nickname. I don't know. A lot of people, I know a woman that's named one thing and goes by a totally different nickname that has, you would be like, oh, well, why do you go by that? Like, so everyone has a story for what their nickname stands for. But I want to say that congratulations to Gypsy. I do believe that she deserves happiness. I do believe out of all the people that I've covered in true crime that have actually perpetrated a crime, she has been the most honest about hers. Maybe not quite in the beginning, but for the most part, she was pretty honest. She admitted to everything, and she is doing her time. I feel like she was in a really fucked up position and a really tough spot. So I think the analogy by the mental health professional that said that she was the same as someone in a hostage situation, and she basically had to do what she had to do to get out of it. And I don't think she wanted her mom dead. I think she just did not want to be under her control anymore. And for that, I murder is never understandable, but, you know, rest in peace to Dee Dee Blanchard. She was clearly suffering from some demons, and that led her to do things that I really wish she hadn't done to her daughter, because, you know, no child deserves that. No child deserves that. But if you liked this content, please consider giving it a thumbs up. And again, subscribe if you haven't. All my donation stuff is down below. You can give a super thanks, or you can just do the latter or the first things I said, not the latter. You can comment, you can like the video. Those are free ways to help support the channel, especially subscribing. But for now, that's all I have. I will stay up to date on this story. And like I said, I am going to pull some records. So when I get more information, I will bring it over to you guys here at AMZ Beloved. And for now, that is all I have, guys. Thank you so much for joining, and I will catch you next time.